welcome back to another Bourbon of the Week. If you haven't been here before, what we do on this channel is take the bourbons in my collection, we rank them on price, taste, drinkability, we throw them on a ranking sheet, and we see who breaks down to the number one bourbon that I have. This week we got something a little bit special for you. I have one of my buddies from Instagram that I met. His name's HeavyAshes, big cigar guy. If you don't already, make sure you go follow him. I'll make sure to link it in the bio below. But HeavyAshes sent us a couple of cigars that we're going to pair with Yellowstone Bourbon, which is why we're actually here at the beautiful Limestone Branch Distillery, which produces the Yellowstone Bourbon. So let's get right into it and let's meet our boy HeavyAshes.
Hi guys, it's your boy HeavyAshes, and today I'm doing a collaboration with my guy Chris Littlewood, aka Bourbon of the Week, and the topic for today is pairing cigars with whiskey. The cigar that I chose, although there's a couple of cigars that really work well with this, to me the one that really stood out was Camacho. I really like Camacho. This is one of the best Connecticut's, in my opinion, that's out there. It's a mellow cigar, but it's spicy. For a Connecticut, for a mild to medium cigar, it's got a lot of spice. It's very flavorful. When you light it up, you get a lot of caramel, graham cracker, toasted graham cracker. It's a lot of pepper. So for Connecticut, it's got a lot of kick to it. It burns really great. This is a Toro. I like smoking Toros with whiskey. It lasts a little longer compared to a Robusto, which is a little shorter. You'll get a good hour and a half probably, depending on how fast you smoke it. I'm a pretty fast smoker, but I do enjoy my cigars, I'll tell you that. When it comes to pairing cigars and whiskey, there's no wrong or right way to do it. It's just trial and error. You know, you pick a cigar, you pick some whiskey. If it works, it works. Yeah, so for this pairing, they really complement each other. It's a really enjoyable session. Nonetheless, try it out, give it a try. Let me and Chris know how you like it. You know, talk about pairings that you've probably tried with this whiskey or with this cigar.
So like I said, my boy HeavyAshes hooked me up, sent me over some cigars from his own personal collection there. Let's get this bad boy open. He says he sent me more than one. I know we got the Camacho in here, but let's see what else he sent me. Oh man, look at this. My man took care of me. What we got in here? Ooh, as well as some HeavyAshes stickers. Are these stickers? So we got the HeavyAshes stickers. We're gonna have to find out where we can put this so he can be forever enshrined on the Bourbon of the Week Hall of Fame right there. But we also got these bad boys. What we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 different cigars here. I can tell you right now, this looks like the one. That's right, the Camacho. That's what we're going to be pairing with our Yellowstone here today. So let's get into it right away. So before we get outside to smoke on that and taste these two together, we're going to do the review here of the Yellowstone Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. And before I do that, I also want to say shout out to Bree and Jason. I don't know if you all heard, but I finally got hitched. The wedding was last weekend. Couldn't ask for a more beautiful wedding. We did a little bit of a smaller ceremony because of the coronavirus and everything. But my buddies Jason and Bree got me these beautiful Tiffany & Company glasses. 4 different glasses, all the same, obviously. A four-piece set. So that's what we're going to be drinking out of today for this. So shout out to you, Bree and Jason. Thank you again. Time for the traditional sip. It's not too bad. So this is a 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley mash bill, but it is also a sourced bourbon, which basically means somebody else, Luxco, makes the whiskey, then they bring it to the Yellowstone distillery, and that's where it's finished in the barrels, and that's where they pick the different tastes that they like to put it into the bottles here. Not a terrible thing. There's a lot of bourbons out there that you probably don't know about that are also using sourced bourbon. Luxco is one of the major companies that sources bourbon. There's a lot of other ones out there. So keeping that in mind, this is a really good bourbon for what you're going to get for it. Drinkability on this is a 93 proof. Isn't terrible, but there is a bit of a kick to it, but I don't think that it is all ethanol. It kind of hits higher than the 93 proof that I thought when I first tasted it, but I'm kind of curious if that's the spices from the rye or the ethanol. So let's give it one more taste here. The second taste still tastes like it has a little bit of an ethanol kick. Kind of a little bit of it on the nose when you get it, but not too bad. Nothing you can't handle. You like the fact that it's a little bit higher proof if you ask me, at least at the price range that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So as for drinkability on this, I'm going to give this like a 7.9. I don't think it's too terrible, but at the same time, I don't want to throw a crazy score out there. We've definitely had some easier sipping 90 to 100 proof bourbons. So getting into the taste on this, it's kind of crazy how after you've drank a few different bottles and you start to figure out who makes what and what comes from where, you can kind of see who's part of the process and see if you can pull any of the flavors from that. And the Jim Beam family has a lot to do with this bottle right here. And it has that Jim Beam taste. It has that Jim Beam nuttiness, a little bit of a chocolate taste if you ask me, but then just your other traditional bourbon flavors. A little bit of spice with that rye, but it almost ends on a grassy note. That ethanol really does come through though, especially on the back of the throat there, but it's not a terrible taste. It's not my favorite, but you can definitely get that Jim Beam feel out of this, that Beam family influence on this bottle here. Not the worst one I've ever tasted. Kind of pretty average for me. It doesn't stand out in any type of way, but at the same time, nothing's giving me a bad flavor, a bad taste in my mouth or anything like that. So for taste, I'll give this a pretty good score. Let's throw this in at let's give it like an 8.5 on the taste scale. So that's going to bring us over to price on this, but before we get into price, I want to talk about why this bottle probably costs $40, and that's going to bring us over into our Bourbon Bomb of the Week. Let's get it. So this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week is brought to you by the Dant family. I want to say Dant or Dant. I don't know the correct pronunciation. I didn't really look up anybody saying the name, but the Dant family is somebody that you probably haven't heard of if you're new to the bourbon world, but who have a major influence in the entire industry. So the Dant family was one of the first families, along with the Beam family, who started distilling here in the United States. They actually started Yellowstone. They had a whole product line and everything like that. And like many other distilleries at the time, Prohibition came along and cut their knees out from under them. They couldn't get a medical license to keep distilling through the process, so they had to shut down. After the shutdown, of course, came the Depression of the 1930s when they were finally allowed to start distilling again, but they got right back into it. And between that and trying to gear back up to it, they had 7 sons in the Dant family, and they all were interested in making their own distilleries, making their own bourbons and whiskeys. Yellowstone ended up getting sold off. It got sold off again. Then it got sold off to Heaven Hill. I'm sure you guys have all heard of Heaven Hill, who then sold it to Luxco. Now, Luxco partnered with 2 of the Beam family brothers from today, whose mothers were obviously part of the Dant family. So they have the Jim Beam last name, but the mother was a Dant. So they brought back Yellowstone to keep both family heritages to producing great bourbon. So without the Beam family at least recognizing the significance of the Dant family and what they've done for the bourbon industry, we might not have Yellowstone today. So that's where Luxco, the Beam family, and Yellowstone all come back together. Cheers to the Dants. So does that justify a $40 bottle? I think it's amazing what they've done to keep the heritage alive with the Dant family and make sure that they still get the recognition in producing a great whiskey. Yellowstone is actually talking about producing their own whiskey. I think in the 2025 range, they're going to drop something of their own. That way they don't have to get it sourced. And I think the reason that it's $40 is because it's getting sourced. When you got to go through that middleman, obviously you're going to pay a little bit extra. So $40 for this bottle, not a terrible bottle. Love the look of it. Love the old school classy look of it. Very simple old school label. Love the gold that goes with it. Perfect bottle top for the cork. Popped pretty well. So $40. I don't want to give this a terrible score. I'm going to give this like an 8.8 on the price scale because I think it deserves to be there for keeping the heritage alive and still producing an amazing whiskey that I can sip on today. So while I have one more sip and add all that up, let's send it back over to Heavy Ashes and see what he thinks of the pairing before I go and try this cigar out myself.
So for today's pairing, we chose the Yellowstone. So like upon trying it, I really like this. It's very vanilla forward, semi-sweet. It's got a little bit of smoke, spicy. Really opens up when you put a little bit of water to it. It's 93 proof, so it's got a little kick to it. It's really good. So I mean, I'd give this pairing a good 8.59 rating together. I definitely want to give a shout out to Chris for reaching out to me about this collaboration. This is my first review and collaboration. I'm sure there'll be plenty more to come. Appreciate that. Thank you.
So my man Heavy Ashes gave this an 8.5 on his scale for this pairing, and lo and behold, this bourbon fell at an 8.4, putting it right below Russell's Reserve. I know they're tied, but I'm going to put it below Russell's Reserves, and I think that's right where it belongs to be. It's a great bourbon, but even more importantly, it's a great story. It's not a made up story to try to get you to buy. They're keeping a family heritage alive with this bourbon, and hopefully they'll be able to produce their own soon. So an 8.5 is where this is going to fall on his scale. Bourbon's going to fall at an 8.4, but I'm going to get to this Camacho, and let's see if this tastes any different when drinking this bourbon. Let's get to it. So here we have it, the Camacho Cigar, the Yellowstone Bourbon. And the one thing that now that I've been smoking on this and sipping on this that I didn't expect is it really mellows out the bourbon. We talked earlier about that drinkability being not so great. Really good here. It actually kind of makes it a little bit easier to drink, a little bit smoother of a bourbon when you're smoking on the cigar, which I did not expect. Also brings out some great flavor profiles. I don't know if it was already in the bourbon and the cigar brought it out, or if the cigar has it and then when you drink the bourbon you get it. More of a coffee chocolatey note that I'm getting that I didn't get earlier, which I really enjoy a lot. But the main thing is taking away from that ethanol kick, which I really like on this. Make sure you go follow my man Heavy Ashes. I'll put it in the comment section below. Recommended the Camacho here. I don't know anything about cigars. I walked into a cigar shop myself for the first time a couple of months ago. I asked them for a cigar recommendation. They said, what do you like? I said, I don't know. They said, what size do you want? I said, medium. That's not a size for a cigar, so I clearly know nothing about this. So I'm glad I had Heavy Ashes there to put something together for me. He sent me a bunch of other cigars as well, so I'm going to make sure to try those out and see if I can pair something myself. Also, shout out my brother-in-law Dave. Bourbon of the week later. Time for the traditional sip. It's amazing what people will get you for your wedding day. So this pairing right here, he gave it an 8.5. I might even go higher than that. I'd probably give this like an 8.7, 8.8. I know I'm not an expert, but this is an amazing pairing. Love what it does for both of these here. So make sure, again, you go follow my man Heavy Ashes. He'll smoke these things until they're down to the tip, and it'll still be all ash. Puts out some amazing content. He'll put some amazing pairings together for you. So thank you again, Heavy Ashes, for being a part of this week. And in the meantime, don't drink and drive, drink responsibly, and as always, wash your hands. Pandemic ain't over, y'all. Cheers. And don't puff and drive. Don't smoke and drink smoke responsibly. I don't know what you do with cigars, but this is delicious. Cheers, y'all.